Hey, so we hear this term all the time, right? The state. But what does it actually mean? Is it just the government? Is it the country itself? Today, we're going to break down this huge concept and figure it out. Let's get right into it.
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll nail down a really clear definition. Then we'll look at where the whole idea came from, its origin stories. After that, we'll break down the four key parts every state needs, look at the different jobs a state can have, and finally, see what we expect from the state in our world today.
All right, let's kick things off with the big one and build a solid foundation. What are we even talking about when we say the state?
It sounds super simple, but the answer is a bit more specific than you'd think. It's not just a spot on a map, and it's not just the politicians in charge. It's really the entire political system that organizes a society.
Okay, so here's the formal dictionary definition. The key word here is system. The state isn't a person or a single building. It's the whole framework, the set of rules and the authority that governs all of us. And, different places define this for their own legal needs. Take India's constitution, for example. Article 12 spells it out very clearly. For them, the state includes the central government, the regional governments, and even all the local authorities. It's basically their way of saying, hey, all of these groups are part of the same big system and have to follow the same constitutional rules. And that brings us to something that trips a lot of people up, the state versus the government. So what's the difference? Well, think of it like this. The state is the entire institution. It's permanent, it has territory, it has the ultimate power. The government, though, that's just the temporary group of people running the state at any given moment. Governments change with elections, but the state itself keeps going. All right, so where did this whole idea even come from? It's not like it just appeared out of thin air. Political thinkers have been wrestling with this for centuries, and they've come up with some pretty cool origin stories. You got a few big ideas. One is that it kind of grew naturally from family to clan to tribe, and boom, a state. Another one is the divine theory, that God or some higher power set it all up. But honestly, the one that really changed everything, the one that's the foundation for modern democracy, that's the social contract theory. So what's the big idea behind the social contract? It's pretty straightforward, really. The theory goes that way back when, people just got together and made a deal. They agreed to give up a little bit of their total freedom in exchange for something incredibly valuable: security, order, and protection. And why would they make that deal? Well, this quote from the philosopher Thomas Hobbes just paints the perfect, brutal picture. He imagined life without a state, what he called the state of nature. And it wasn't pretty. It was just chaos, a war of everyone against everyone. Forming a state was the only way out. But here's the thing, not all the social contract guys saw it the same way. Hobbes, he was all about avoiding that nasty, brutish life, so he argued for an all-powerful ruler to keep everyone in line. Then you have John Locke, who had a totally different take. He thought we needed a limited government, one that exists only to protect our natural rights, life, liberty, and property. His ideas were a huge influence on democracies like the US. And then there's Rousseau, who talked about the general will, pushing for a more direct democracy. Three big thinkers, three very different ideas, and you can still see their influence in politics today. Okay, so no matter how a state got started, what actually makes it a state? Think of it like a recipe. You need 4 essential ingredients. Miss one, and well, the whole thing falls apart. First up, you need a population. Can't have a state without people, right? Second, you need a territory, a clear geographical area for those people to live in. And then you need a government to actually run things and make the laws. And finally, the special sauce, sovereignty. That's the supreme, final authority. If you don't have all 4, you're not technically a state. And what's wild is that when it comes to population, size really, really doesn't matter. You've got China with over 1.4 billion people, and then you have Vatican City with just over 800. Both are states because they both check all 4 boxes. But let's talk about sovereignty for a second, because this is the absolute game changer. It's the ingredient that truly defines a state. It means the state has the final say, period. Internally, its laws are the highest authority, and externally, it's independent and not controlled by any other state. It calls its own shots. All right, so we've built our state. It's got all 4 ingredients, now what? What does it actually do? Well, the answer is, it depends. A lot. The role of the state exists on a huge spectrum, from doing almost nothing to doing absolutely everything.
On one side of the scale, you have what's called the minimal state. John Locke was a big fan of this idea. Basically, the state is like a night watchman. Its only jobs are to protect us from getting attacked, make sure we honor our contracts, and keep the peace. That's it. Hands off everything else.
But of course, most states do way more than that. You move up the scale and you get the developmental state, which jumps into the economy to push for growth. Then you have the social democratic state, which is all about creating fairness and social justice. And then you get to the collectivized state, which takes control of the entire economy.
And then, at the absolute far end of the spectrum, you have the totalitarian state. This is where the state's power is total. It doesn't just run the country, it tries to run your life, controlling every part of public and even private life. So that brings us to today. Where do most of us fit in? Well, most modern nations are what we call a welfare state, which is somewhere in the middle of that big spectrum we just talked about. So what are its jobs? And man, the job description for a modern state is long. I mean, look at this. It's not just about police and armies anymore. We expect the state to handle healthcare, build roads, control the money supply, provide pensions, and even support education and science. It's a massive expansion from that simple night watchman idea. And all of this leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. The idea of the state has changed so much over time, from that simple deal for safety to this complex system we have now. So in a world that's more connected than ever, what's next? What is the future of the state? What will its role be tomorrow?